Welcome back to another episode from Layers in Art. Today we take a look at something slightly different, nonetheless a painting that many of us can relate to, about the close friendship between animals and humans. A Dear Visit, ein lieber Besuch, was painted in 1894 by Austrian painter Max Kurzweil. This intriguing image is composed of what appears to be a hospital room with two men in military uniform and one man that appears to be bedridden. One of the two military men is bringing a horse inside the room for the injured man to see. Why was Max Kurzweil interested in painting an episode from military life in the first place? Let's get to know a little bit about the author as well, especially if you haven't heard of him before. Maximilian Franz Victor Zdenko Marie Kurzweil was born in 1867 in a small town of Pisans, or Zenec in the Czech pronunciation, in Moravia, a historical region in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, now in the Czech Republic. His father was the owner of a sugar factory, which he eventually sold and moved the family to Vienna. While in Vienna, the young Kurzweil began to study at the prestigious Academy of Fine Arts. At 25 years of age, he enlisted in the Austrian-Hungarian Empire's army as a volunteer in the Dragoons Regiment, or Dragonen-Regiment, where he served for an entire year. A Dear Visit was painted not long after his service in the army came to an end. Judging by the uniforms and the red caps worn by the two men in the background, they were in the Austrian Imperial Cavalry, which was divided into many sub-branches. Max Kurzweil quickly became very successful as part of the Vienna Künstlerhaus, a sort of formal association of Austrian artists. In 1897, he quit the association to fund, alongside Gustav Klimt and other Austrian artists, the Viennese Secession. This was a formal break with academic art and tradition. He was married to a French woman, Martha Guyot, from Brittany, where the couple would spend their summers. We can see a lovely portrait of her in this painting, Woman in a Yellow Dress. Kurzweil also received a teaching position at the Frauenkunstschule, an art academy for female artists in Vienna. While teaching there, he met a young student, Helene Heger, whom he became tragically in love with. Max Kurzweil had a very volatile temperament, struggled with depression and mood swings that we today might characterize as bipolar disorder, and at the time World War I erupted, he was summoned to the front as he was still a military in reserve. He was at that point separated from his wife, Martha, who fled back to France. Kurzweil, by then, he was in his mid-40s. He was deployed on a Serbian front, and upon returning to Vienna while on leave, he and his lover, Helene, both agreed to suicide by revolver shot in the spring of 1916. He shot her and then turned the gun on himself. Back to the painting. The army training that Kurzweil did left a deep impression on him, so much so that he dedicated his now most famous and celebrated painting to a scene that lets us see an ordinary event in the life of military man. The image showcases a military hospital where a wounded soldier receives the visit of his beloved military horse and is assisted by two fellow soldiers. It is possible the soldier is seriously injured and his fate unknown, hence the reason his two friends bring him his horse, with which he served in the army, so that the two can see each other again and perhaps say goodbye. When military service used horses, especially on the front, there was a very powerful link between the servicemen and their horse, based on mutual trust and cooperation for survival. So the painter is very efficient in showing us the special connection. The horse seems to know that his human partner is not well and gently steps forward to greet him and be with him at a difficult time. I'm not sure how many of you had a horse, but I'm sure many of you have had a dog at some point and are aware of the loyalty, affection, and deep bond they are capable of. And I mention dogs because it is said that dogs and horses have many similarities in behavior and temperament and are capable of a deep attachment to their humans. But what does the horse symbolize? The presence of the horse in this image isn't without meaning, besides the obvious one, of course. The image of the horse is symbolic and has many implications that we don't immediately think about or notice. We will focus on a few of the symbols attributed to the horse, the ones that are relevant to our painting. Loyalty and service. Domesticated horses symbolize loyalty and a bond of trust between humans and animals. In many cultures, they are depicted as noble companions aiding humanity in travel, labor, and war. War and heroism. Horses are tied to the history of war, often representing bravery, honor, and the sacrifices of soldiers. They symbolize the warrior spirit, his nobility, and the deep relationship between a cavalryman and his horse. Death and the other world. In some traditions, horses are what is called psychopomps, or guides to the afterlife. Mythologies such as Norse and Greek often portray horses as carriers of souls to the other world, or are symbolic of death. Even today, in some funerary rituals, we can see the casket driven by a horse and carriage. A Deer Visit is a visual story of the trials and hardships of military life and the few joys that are hard to find but still present, such as having your beloved horse visit you in the hospital. This would no doubt be forbidden, as animals are not allowed inside public buildings, let alone hospitals. But in this case, it must have been an exception, showing the close bond the soldier shares with his horse, who is equally happy to see him. And a nice bit of trivia I found, it seems that the painting A Deer Visit has turned into a postcard that was very popular during the First World War in Austria. What is your opinion about this very endearing painting? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. As always, thank you for watching, and if you found something interesting and meaningful in today's episode, please like, share with others, and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next episode when we'll be unraveling another layer in art.